So this is my Zojirushi rice cooker. You can see I got it from Goodwill for $13. This is like a $150 plus machine. They got so many models of this, it's kind of hard. I don't think this exact model is the newer model, but works like new. It has different type of rice settings. You can put a clock, set the time in. I usually don't do that, but if you want your rice to be ready at 6:30 at night, you just set it all up, hit it, and let it go. It can hold rice. In other words, it keeps it warm, has a keep warm function, either just for regular use, a short term, or extended use. So, and I don't know, seems a little controversy in there with someone I know said they would never use that unless it was really cold in their house, the extended. And then I watched some other video where the person said that, they'd, make full batches with this and take it out whatever day they needed it. So we've been using primarily the white sushi rice, sticky rice as it's called. So I decided to expand a little and try some of the other rices. So today we've tried the brown rice. Let's look what it looks like inside. I've already fluffed this up. You go in and you fluff it up. So this is brown rice that is complete rice, kind of like instead of whole wheat, it's whole rice. Let's try some. So I've got this from an Asian market, Riceland, extra long grain, natural brown rice, whole grain, good source. Let's just look on the back here. Okay, so this rice has a quarter of a cup is 150 calories, protein 3 grams. Gee, it doesn't have a lot of other stuff in it. It's got practically no fat, no sodium. It's got a tiny bit of potassium. It's got, the total carbs are 32 grams or 11% of what you need in a day. Dietary fiber is 1 gram, protein 3 grams, so you're getting some protein. It's interesting, a lot of the rice that I was seeing was not from the U.S., and this rice definitely is, that was in this particular store I was in. Now, instead of a dog nose, so the cat, Badger the cat. He was one of 2 feral cats that were brought into the vet hospital where one of my daughters works as a groomer. They were both quite ill. That the idea was they thought that the mother was a feral cat, and she just abandoned these 2 kittens. And so, of course, they turned them in, and rather than just let them expire, people kind of adopted them in a way, and they got the medical treatment they needed. This guy had some weird tick-borne thing that you wouldn't normally look for. It's kind of a rare thing, but he had it, so they took care of that. Plus, he had some other episodes too. So now he seems like he's back to being a completely healthy cat. He's heavy. He's like 8 pounds already, and technically he's still a kitten. So, and it's funny, he has these wisps in his ear that make him kind of look bobcatish a little, but they think that it's got a little, because of the markings and the size, that it might have some coon cat in it. But now we're going to put you down for a minute, and we'll go back to our taste test. We're doing this brown rice. You can definitely see that it's brown. And I could really smell it when I was cooking. This cooker vents, and when it was, I could smell the rice in the other room. It does have more of a flavor, but it's very mild. So I made, the Zojirushi has this cup measuring device. So you can do smaller amounts, but I did this 1 cup. I think this 1 cup is going to give me 2 bowlfuls like this. I'm kind of experimenting because there's 3 of us. How much do we need to cook? I want to find some more recipes, but one of the things we noticed, the sticky rice is really, really good. But sometimes you want rice that doesn't stick together. This isn't quite as sticky, but it's funny because, of course, I can remember growing up, the big deal is you wanted light, fluffy rice that didn't stick together. You had the minute rice, you had these Uncle Ben's and all these different things, but it seemed to all be geared for not allowing the rice to stick together. And then you start actually reading about rice, you have a rice machine, and you find out that most times you want rice that sticks together. Now, normally, of course, you're going to have something on this. I've gotten these little packs and used them. Rice flavoring. Supposedly that adds 25 calories to it, but it's got a whole list of ingredients. Top ingredient is dehydrated soy sauce. The thing that you're adding a lot here is sodium. If we were doing this, I would have added 370 milligrams or 16% of my sodium requirement alone just in the flavoring. I've read that Japanese diets are very, very high in salt. Yeah, but Japanese people don't tend to be overweight. They tend to walk a lot. If you're in a city and things, you're much more likely to walk to a place than to necessarily use public transportation. It's just something they do, and I think that's how they're able to eat this higher salt diet. And although one thing, this little article I was reading was saying that there's a much higher rate of stomach cancer in Japan than other countries. So it's the same way I read something about wine, drinking wine. Read something about it with the barrels. They thought there was this chemical that was actually coming from the barrels the wines were stored in that was going to help you. So drinking alcohol for those people helped them. And then they have some other problem, like developing alcoholism if they do too much of it. But then they were talking about the Eskimos in another article saying, oh, this is great. This fish oil they eat, they have, I'll just make these up, but I don't remember. They have 20% less heart attacks. And it was like, well, yeah, but then you read on in the article and you find out they have like 10% more strokes. So, centering on one ingredient a lot can have certain benefits, but there can be certain side effects too. The diet of a true indigenous person how could you say this without saying the word Eskimo? Native First Nation people, you would say that in Canada, but it's very complex because some people, First Nation type people, Native Americans that are, they're more in the north, call themselves Eskimos and prefer to use that title, whereas if you use that title for people that are more into Canada, that's usually considered very insulting. So I haven't been able to figure out how to call if you're talking about, obviously they're indigenous, they're Native Americans, Native North Americans, how do you separate out the people that we would call, you can't even say Inuit because that's just a specific group. That's like a tribe classification. That isn't, when you're talking about a group. But anyway, forgive me if I say Eskimo and you don't like it because I don't know what else to do. But back to the rice. So this definitely doesn't stick together as much. So this will be fun to use this to experiment with it. The second rice we're trying, now it's at this Asian market, and they only had 25-pound bags of this jasmine rice. So I decided to check out this little strip mall, and there was this Shop and Save, Plumber's Shop and Save, and they had this small bag of jasmine rice, so I got it. And this is supposed to have a definite different type of taste. Let's see, it looks pretty much the same as regular rice as far as just looking at the contents. And so we'll try it. Oh, this is interesting. It's fat-free, sodium-free, and 0 milligrams of cholesterol. But again, like I say, soy sauce has got a lot of salt in it. So traditionally, if you eat any Japanese recipe, or I think Chinese, you would find the same thing, with that the soy sauce and other components add a lot of salt to them. So that will be our next try, is the jasmine rice.